I have predicted the Premier League champions and I have found the reason. We are entering the crunch time of the Premier League season. I'm recording this video now on the 13th of March. Arsenal have just dominated Fulham 3-0 and Man City beat Crystal Palace 1-0 due to a penalty. Arsenal are on 66 points, Man City 61. 11 games are remaining this season. But I know who will be the Premier League champions, and it is Arsenal. Now, if you guys are watching this, please take it with a pinch of Arsenal bias, because look, I'm very deluded when it comes to Arsenal, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I've spoken about Arsenal, but let's talk about the chasers, Manchester City. So in the last video, I basically spoke about how City have become so-called predictable and their wingers don't really take people on, but I think they found their way of playing and Pep has stumbled on a system. We're seeing Foden come into great form. We're seeing Jack Grealish play into great form. Even players like Nathan Ake, who's probably been their best defender this season. But I think he solved it by finding Bernardo Silva at left back. Adds an extra body into the midfield, and it gives them that extra control that they needed. Because coming into the World Cup, their games were very end-to-end, and Pep Guardiola does not like that. In fact, I don't even like that. And the way that Pep has found his system is actually quite worrying if you really fear Manchester City as a side. They've finally gone on a run of games in the Premier League. They've finally won 3 on the bounce for the first time this season. And they keep things ticking. And they're currently finding a way to win. But so are Arsenal. At the time of recording this, Arsenal are on a 5-match winning streak. Albeit they're beating the teams that they should beat. But it's still a really good run to go on, especially at this time of the season. Because in February, Arsenal did not have this kind of luck. They dropped points to Man City, Brentford, Everton. It looked like they were going to drop points to Aston Villa as well, but Jorginho's deflected, or I would say deflected, but Jorginho's, I'm just going to call it Jorginho's goal because Emi Martinez doesn't probably want that own goal. So Jorginho's goal took us over the line and we won that match 4-2. And now Arsenal have gone on strength to strength and they're picking up more points, they're getting wins, especially that game against Fulham. They were incredibly dominant. And I know in that last video I said Arsenal were going to win the Premier League, and I spoke about how, look, we were going to sign Mudryk at the time, we were going to sign players to challenge the team, and we were able to do that, albeit not signing Mudryk. But we found a really good solution in Leandro Trossard. Hey, if you guys follow me, you know I was the biggest Trossard hater when we were linked to him. And it's because at the time I thought, look, he's not going to be a dribbler, he's not really an outlet, but that position that he's playing in, that coming off the left, that striker, false 9 position, it has really elevated this team. Because what it means is that we can replicate dynamics, and not in the way that we did with Eddie Nketiah in the team. Because albeit with Nketiah in the team, we had a focal point striker. And the problem is with that, our system is so fluid. So when you have that focal point striker, you have to play and feed that focal point striker. And it's not really something our players are used to and suited to. Maybe Saka is, Odegaard is, but not the other players. So with Jesus being out for 4 months and him finally coming back into the squad, we're seeing the effects of Trossard in the team. Like Arsenal fans always say it on Twitter, but before the World Cup, it was just vibes ball. And I think we're slowly coming back to that. Leandro Trossard is such a floor raiser in this team. He elevates the games of everyone around him. Saka, Odegaard, Xhaka especially, Martinelli especially. Gabriel Martinelli is really getting used to that central striker position. He's picked up a bag of goals in only a few amount of games. And he's up to 12 non-penalty Premier League goals this season. But aside from Trossard, Arsenal were also able to sign Kiwior and Jorginho. So as I mentioned, they're really able to replicate dynamics. Gabriel gets injured, Kiwior comes in. Partey gets injured, Jorginho comes in. Trossard is like the unicorn because he can really play a top role in all of those striker positions. And that's exactly what we needed. And maybe it was not the short-term impact that we were going to get from Mudryk. Mudryk is more of a long-term project, he's a plan. And obviously Mudryk has a way higher ceiling than Leandro Trossard. And in that January transfer window, it was like, what were Arsenal weighing up? They wanted that short-term impact or they wanted that long-term goal. And obviously they chose the short-term impact and it is paying off for them at the moment. And why I believe so much in this Arsenal story to win the championship is that there's an arc or like a redemption arc going through the whole team. This team compared to where we were a few years ago is literally night and day. Bro, I was celebrating us scoring 1 goal and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Similar to what Chelsea fans were doing when they scored against Leeds. And now I'm seeing this team is that people wrote some players off and now they're coming back. I wrote Trossard off and it just shows how, it just shows that I'm not a manager, I'm just a video maker. And if I look at certain players like Granit Xhaka, his story with how the fans rejected him and now the fans love him. Gabriel with his form before the World Cup wasn't the best and now he's making the right decisions, scoring goals, being a true leader on the pitch for Arsenal. You can talk about Martin Odegaard. He was like the Norwegian prince 10 years ago. Everyone thought that he was the guy. Went to Real Madrid, didn't work out, had so many loan spells, came to Arsenal and finally found his home. And now he's the captain, potentially leading Arsenal to their first Premier League title in 19 years. Bukayo Saka, coming back from that penalty, that racial abuse. He's the penalty taker for Arsenal. He's probably been the player of the season for Arsenal. He can make a case for a player of the season award at the end of the season. Hopefully the young player of the season is like fully locked in for him. But the most interesting redemption story in this Arsenal team is Reiss Nelson. Everyone calls Bukayo Saka Starboy, but Reiss Nelson was the original Starboy. Bro, like in 2014, 2015 times, everyone knew who Reiss Nelson was. And, you know, it just goes to show how football is not like a straight arc or a straight line. It just goes to show that everyone has to go through their stories. Reiss Nelson went on loan, he went out of form, his head wasn't in it, his mind wasn't in it. And that's just not me saying it, that's him saying it himself. But he's found his form and like he's really come into this Arsenal team. That performance against Nottingham Forest at the start of the season, Brighton in the Carabao Cup. He was cooking against Juventus before he got injured, and then that last minute goal. His impact has truly been felt in this Arsenal team. Reiss Nelson made history, and Reiss Nelson made his story. That was a Drake bar. Hey man, I didn't come up with that. Gabriel Jesus, again, coming back into the team, written off at Man City. Man City always need a striker. He's going to come back into this Arsenal team, and he's going to do big things. He already missed a chance, so I know it's Gabriel Jesus right there. But he basically created the chance for himself alongside Fabio Vieira. And this is why I truly believe in this Arsenal team. Now looking ahead at the future fixtures, they both have 11 games left to play. The coming weekend, Man City play in the FA Cup, Arsenal play against Crystal Palace, and I expect Arsenal to win that game as well. And then you have the international break, and then you come back in April and Arsenal play again before Man City play Liverpool at the Etihad. If Arsenal are able to pick up those two results, Liverpool somehow get something at the Etihad, Arsenal have a really healthy advantage going into the really thick and troublesome and gruesome part of the season. If we take a look at the fixtures, Arsenal have to travel to Anfield, the Etihad, St James's Park, the City Ground, Nottingham Forest Stadium, and they're going to be fighting for their lives, and they have a good record at home. And Arsenal don't really travel there well. City have to travel to Southampton, where they've already lost this season. They have to travel to Fulham, albeit Fulham they rolled over today. I don't think it'll be as easy for Man City. They travel to Everton, who are in great form at home under Sean Dyche. They travel to Brentford again. They've only lost one game all season in the Premier League at home. They travel to Brighton as well, and it's like, this is what champions are made of. If Arsenal are able to go in and make those games their own and City falter in any way, then it's Arsenal's championship to lose. And that game, everyone speaks about it, that game on the 26th of April, Arsenal-Man City, it's going to be a crazy match, because it's truly going to be whoever wins this game has that momentum to go on and truly win the Premier League. Arsenal, I think that game they just need to avoid losing. Hopefully I'm going to be making more videos closer to the time about that game. And City, like, they've done this, they've won Premier Leagues, they've done all of this kind of stuff. Like, winning Premier Leagues, it just comes second nature to that Manchester City team. So it's Arsenal that have to feel that pressure, and they know what it really means to win a Premier League. I saw this tweet from EBL, and it was more so talking about Arteta's system, and because that system is so good, it reduces the pressure off the players and it makes the players feel at home in that system. And I really like the way that he came across, and that tweet really put into perspective how good of a coach Mikel Arteta is. But this video has already ran long enough, and I'll save that for another time. I truly believe in this Arsenal team, and I hope they could win the Premier League. If not, I'm going to be cooked on Twitter, social media, everywhere. But I truly believe in this Arsenal team, and you guys should believe in them too. If you like this video, please subscribe. I've been Rimedi, you guys have been my loyal subscribers. Take care and peace.